One of the most difficult things in the world to do is to pick India's top 5 batting performances in Test cricket. Since the time India started going to Australia, it's one of the world's great batting countries. And you go back over the years, how great must it have been for Vijay Hazare to score a century in each innings in Adelaide in 47-48, the great romance of a 23-year-old Dattu Phadkar scoring 100 and saying he couldn't sleep because Bradman walked across and said, "Well played, boy." Or you go next 67, 68, Tiger Pataudi on one leg and one eye making 70 and 80 in the 2 innings in the Melbourne Test. Gavaskar's 300s, that astonishing run chase in the last Test match in Adelaide in 77, 78. Hundreds by Sandeep Patil, a brilliant 100 by Vishwanath in the Melbourne Test. Oh, there's so many to talk about. And so, having put that disclaimer, I will talk about innings that I have been fortunate to have seen. And so we'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. At number 5, I'm going to an innings just around the turn of the century. 99-2000, VVS Laxman has been a Test player for about 3 or 4 years now. Has been forced to go up to open the batting. Only average is about 25. Doesn't have a Test 100 so far. Hasn't had a great tour. And India set a mountain of runs to win. And they collapse for 261. But at the other end, Lakshman is just hitting boundary after boundary. He's peeling shots after shots. He makes 167. And as he says afterwards, I actually asked him, which of all your great Sydney hundreds? Because there have been so many, do you rate the most? And he said the 167, as much as the 281 some years thereafter, because it convinced me I could play. And look what happened after that innings. The 281 arrived, 109 arrived, the 148 arrived, the 178 arrived, the 200 not out arrived. Just a beautiful garland of runs from VVS Laxman. So that innings in Sydney late on that third evening is number 5 on my list. If that is number 5, what comes ahead of that? First morning of the Boxing Day Test match, 2003-4. It was a great series to view Indian batsmanship. Virender Sehwag goes out. He's playing some of the best cricket of his life. Sehwag and Akash Chopra just feel the Australian bowling a little bit, and then one boundary after the other. Can you imagine last over before lunch? What do people do last over before lunch? They play out. Sehwag gets 18 of Brett Lee. And before you know it, he's on 189. Everyone stopped what they're doing to see this man who's forgotten it's Test match cricket. Simon Catich bowls a full toss over mid-wicket 6. Simon Catich bowls another full toss, boom, over long on. No, just short. Out for 195, but that was Sehwag, living by the sword, dying by the sword. But that 195 on the first morning of a packed house Boxing Day Test match was something else. So that was number 4. Number 3 was a tough one to choose for me. If you realized, I've only picked 1 innings per Test batsman, because otherwise, I just had to simplify it some way or the other. Virat Kohli's century in Perth in 2018 on a difficult pitch was sublime batsmanship. But I've picked his second innings 100 at Adelaide in 2014. India chasing around 360 to win, no runs around him. But that one partnership, Murali Vijay makes 99. India just about 120 short at the 8 wickets in hand, and then the collapse to Nathan Lyon. But Virat Kohli just kept on attacking and attacking. I thought some of his pulling to Mitchell Johnson was just outstanding. And he was bowling really quick. It clunked him on the head once at the start of the innings. And Kohli said afterwards to us that whatever the target, they decided they're going to go for it. He said if he had just hung around, we'd probably have lost by 100. We all knew Kohli was going to be a good player. It was his first Test as captain. That day we realized he's not just a very good player. He's in a different league. He's probably special. So that was number 3. Number 2, how can you forget Adelaide, 2003-4. Australia 556, India 85 for 4. There come Rahul Dravid and VVS Laxman, put on over 300 runs. Rahul Dravid makes a double 100. In spite of that great batting performance, Australia still led by 33. Then Australia bowled out. India have 230 to chase. Rahul Dravid is still there, 72 not out. That drive to the covers, the kissing of the helmet. Wow. 233 not out, 72 not out. Rahul Dravid at Adelaide in the middle of a purple patch with the eyes of some in that face. He was probably the best batsman in the world. He made batsmanship in that era look so pretty, and there were so many match-winning innings in that phase. But at number 1, he was just 18 years old. My first tour of Australia. I'm wide-eyed. Tendulkar was making everyone look wide-eyed. Not yet 19. goes out to Perth and gets his classic 100. At close of play on day 3, Tendulkar's 31 not out India at 130 for 5. He makes 83 out of the next 130 odd runs. Only Kiran Modi batting at number 10 gives him company. But Tendulkar at one stage was hitting a boundary every over, almost 4-5 runs an over, standing tall, hitting 4 big Australian fast bowlers to square corners of the boundary. And we realized that day, with a start almost, a lot of people just stood up and said, what can this man achieve? He got 100 before that as well, one in England and one in Sydney. But when he got that 100 in Perth, he said, oh man, what can this man achieve? He was to go on and peel off many hundreds in Australia thereafter. But the memory of that one, 1992, we're talking 28 years ago. If you're 35, you already haven't seen the best of Tendulkar, by the way. It was just stunning. I'm hoping that by the end of this series, it'll be even more difficult for me to pick the top 5.